Welcome back to ElevenLabs Agents Academy. In the previous videos, you've learned how to create your very first ElevenLabs agent and integrate it into your website or mobile apps. Now, another crucial component of deploying agents at scale is security and authentication. So at the moment, authentication for our agent is disabled. We default to this to allow you to quickly spin up an agent and start testing with very little integration overhead. Now, as you deploy your agent to production, you will want to enable authentication here. Once you deploy your agent to production, you will want to take certain security measures. The first measure you can take is this allow list approach. With ElevenLabs agents, we've built the entire client server-side abstraction for you to make it as easy as possible to integrate and scale your agents across your applications. Now, this means that the agent directly connects to the user's client device. So this might be their computer and their browser, or their mobile app on their mobile phone. So this means that we will want to enable only our host domains to make sure that no one can just take our agent ID and integrate it into their website. So for example, I've deployed my e-commerce store here on this domain. So I can add this host to my allow list and give that a save here. And so now only my production deployed application will be able to initiate the connection to the agent. So for example, if we now go to the preview here and we refresh this, we will see that if we now click call us, we can now see this error that we weren't able to authorize the conversation because this is a preview environment and we haven't added the preview URL. So you can see here, the preview URL is coming from this domain, which is different to our production domain. However, here in our production domain, now we will be able to initiate the conversation.
Hi there, I can help you track your order or answer questions you might have.
And talk to our agent right away. So this is the first and easiest security measure that we can take, which is this allow list approach where we can simply authenticate our host URLs to make sure that only our production domains are able to initiate the conversations with the ElevenLabs backend. Now, the other approach that we can take is the signed URL approach. Now, this is a little bit more advanced because we will need a secure server-side environment to generate a short-lived signed URL, which we can then send to the client side to initiate the conversation on the client. Now, this is, for example, something we want to use in our mobile application scenario, because there we won't have a host domain and we will need to generate this short-lived signed URL. So now let's have a look at how we can do this. So the first step is to enable authentication in our backend here. So you can see now as we enable authentication and we reload our page, if we now were to try to initiate a conversation with our agent, you can now see that we failed to start our conversation. And we weren't actually able to even load the widget at all. So now what we can do is we can generate a signed URL using ElevenLabs.js in a secure server route. So as I mentioned, this approach, we will need a secure server environment because the ElevenLabs API key cannot be used client-side. It's a purely server secret key that we can only use in a secure server environment. So now we can see here that we will add an API route to get a signed URL, which we can then use on the client side to initiate the conversation. So you can see here that now we will need an ElevenLabs API key. So here we can head to the developer section, API keys, and we can create an API key that will allow us to connect. So we can say e-commerce prod app, for example. And what we can also do is we can configure a certain API key to have a limit of credit. So for example, if we want to say this environment is only allowed to use 100,000 credits per month, and we can also configure certain permissions for our API key. So in our case, we will want to use the conversational AI agent, and we will want to allow access here. So now we can create this API key. Remember, this is a secret key, so do keep it secret. So now we can head back and we can add our API key to our integration. And so now we can see that here we have created this new API route. So this is a secure server route. Now you can see we're using the ElevenLabs client here, and we need our ElevenLabs API key that we just provided. And then in order to get our signed URL, we need to simply feed in the agent ID into our ElevenLabs client. So we also need to configure our ElevenLabs agent ID. So we go back to our agents and we can simply click on the agent ID here to copy it, and then we'll simply set that up here. And so now you can see the environment variables have been saved successfully. We will generate our signed URL, and we can now look into the hero section where we're using our ElevenLabs React package to use the use conversation. And you can see now that we've updated this to initiate the conversation using the signed URL. So here we're fetching the signed URL from the API, so our secure server environment. We're getting our signed URL out, and then we're starting the conversation here on the client side with this short-lived signed URL. And so now if we switch back to our preview and hit talk to us.
Hi there. I can help you track your order or answer questions you might have.
We will generate the signed URL, return that back to the client side, and then the client side here will use the signed URL to initiate the section.
I understand that you're discussing generating a signed URL and using it on the client side. However, this falls outside my area of expertise as a customer support assistant for...
There we go. So this is how you can make your agents secure and authenticate them in different ways, either via the allow list for your website or generating a short-lived signed URL to initiate sessions directly on mobile devices, for example. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.